allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is a presentation by our Environmental Advisory Board by Andy Kaplan.
All right, well, thank you for having me here. I think it won't take too long here. Just have a request from the Environmental Advisory Board for council to approve the township to send a letter to the PA Public Utility Commission, or PUC, in support, just saying our support for a petition that was put into the PUC by a group of boroughs within the state. So this would have no impact on Plymouth Township. This is just a letter of support for these other bureaus and for boroughs and the petition that they've submitted. Maybe down the line, eventually, if CCA, Community Choice Aggregation, gets accepted, maybe eventually. But for now, just focused on these boroughs. And again, it's just a general letter of support, support for renewable energy and this era of climate change and so forth. I actually, I'm a very technical person, engineer, so had a tough time, trying to separate myself from the technical merit or the legal merit within the state and so forth. But this is just a general letter saying, we support renewable energy and so forth, and would like to see community choice aggregation support it. Just to provide a little bit of history, so back on June 20th, this letter was sent to the PUC by this group of boroughs. There was a pre-conference hearing back in September, and then based on some of the feedback that was received, and then brought together in that pre-hearing, the boroughs resubmitted their petition, cleaning up some things. So that's the kind of current version of the petition that you can see out there is from September 20th. And then there was a second pre-hearing back on October 29th. The borough's really primary objective just to transition to renewable energy. Like Plymouth Township, how we've signed the Ready for 100 pledge. These boroughs are looking to transition as much as they can to renewable energy for their residents and for their businesses. So what the community choice aggregation would do would permit them to act as an aggregator for all the residents and small businesses to bring them into a power purchase agreement or something for a solar power field, enacting better pricing that they could achieve individually. They say better consumer protection. I guess that is kind of talking to other generators coming in and trying to switch them or something, that they would be protected from that. And then, of course, the wider community goals are just kind of the RF 100, Ready for 100 pledge that they've made for renewable energy. So just, that's, you guys can't see too well. Let me try that. So they would have to, how it work, each borough will still have to pass a resolution within their borough authorizing them to go out and enact the CCA agreement. They would work with a CCA administrator to implement the CCA, the Community Choice Aggregation for the borough. The CCA administrator would help them educate the community both on why they're doing this, what will be done, as well as how they could opt out of this and choose some other source of electricity. The electric power itself will come through an RFP process, open process for electric generation suppliers, or EGSs, to bid into for their renewable energy supply. I'm assuming kind of solar power, but see what they end up working out. So once that's in place, then that electricity would become the default electricity supply for those consumers that are kind of considered suitable customers that have not, that are currently using the default service, have not opted for some other supplier themselves. And there's a bunch of other requirements on exactly who are those suitable customers, and you can read about them in what's posted online there. I'm going to try to fit it all on this chart. It would require that everybody's notified. They're not trying to hide this or anything. They would have to be notified through the education itself, and then through a 30-day notice that would enable them to switch before they would be forced to CCA. And they can opt out at any time without penalty or without any additional cost to them. And then that list of suitable customers will be reviewed several times a year in order to see if anyone's coming in, new residents, or just kind of switch to the default service. They would then be picked up with the CCA. Again, anyone can opt out at any time they want without penalty. So the letter, again, I know you can't see this, Karen, I know I submitted, I gave you a draft Word document. The Word document I put forth kind of followed what's on the right-hand side here. This was what appears on the screen here was a letter that was it Sierra Club put together. And the wording on this was really meant to have a bunch of municipalities all sign it together. So this one's a little different than the one I shared with you guys, but I just tweaked some language just to make it specific to Plymouth Township. But I also have an example here of what Doylestown said. So again, a township municipality that's not part of the petition itself, but is voiced their support for this with the PUC. So you can see what they shared. There are a bunch of other letters that are available on the PUC website if you go to this. And that is actually my last slide. I don't know if you have any questions or any quick comments?
No, I think you did great coverage, Andy. Yeah, so any questions, discussion?
I have a quick question. Why would the PUC reject someone's effort to do this? So I mean, if we're writing a letter in support, I imagine people are concerned that maybe there wouldn't be support, and other boroughs or municipalities helping out might strengthen their case. But why would the PUC not just accept a borough's request to do this?
I mean, I can think of two or three things. I mean, the letters that I've seen on the PUC website, the couple of things I'm seeing are, one, they view it simply switching people. Although you're allowing them to opt out, you're switching them automatically or kind of behind the scenes a little bit. They're doing education, they're doing a 30-day notice, but you're forcing them into this thing, so that's kind of termed slamming. Right? When people show up to your door and they say, hey, let me see your electric bill, and then they switch your electricity without your generation service, without you knowing, that's known as slamming. So they're comparing this to that, which I don't think that is the greatest comparison. The other thing is that they put in their original petition that they will not be licensed as an EGS, as a generation service. I think they changed some of the language in their petition. I don't know the details of it, but they softened that they'll be working with an official EGS that's licensed and so forth. So I think both of those things are kind of been addressed a little bit in the updated petition. The other thing that I can think of is, and that hasn't been brought up, is that 10 states allow CCAs. 9 of them have done it by legislative action. The other one, I'm not actually completely clear on how legally it came about. That's New York. But so the typical way to go about this is through state-level legislation, not a petition with the PUC.
So state level, not municipal level.
Correct. It needs to be done at the state level.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania code currently allows boroughs to acquire power for all their constituents. So there are 35 boroughs in Pennsylvania that have done that. Lansdale and Quakertown are examples in our region.
because back in the day, and this is kind of they inherited this legacy, is that at the old days, the boroughs actually had their own electric generation, and they actually had their own crews, and they maintained the wires, and they did all of that work that PECO now does. So when they shifted to saying, well, PECO's going to take care of all the wires and the transmission, we no longer have to be responsible for that equipment, but they kept the authority to have that acquisition of power be for their constituents. So for instance, Lansdale consumers, businesses within the borough boundaries all get a bill, electric bill from Lansdale, and they determine the set price of what everybody's going to pay. And that's legal within Pennsylvania code. So any borough within Pennsylvania could do that. Just 35 have done it so far. So when the working group for CCA brought this forward, we realized boroughs already have the authority to go out and acquire power. So all the working group is asking the PUC to recognize that this is as equivalent a way of acquiring power, and it just needs to have some of the rule changes to allow this, so that it's as clear as it is currently. Because there were cases back in a decade ago where an EGS, the electric generation supplier, came into a town and tried to switch everybody to their supply, but they didn't put it out for competitive bid, and so the PUC didn't like that. So they kind of said, we can't do that anymore. So by squashing that, there was this idea that, well, this CCA mechanism would be kind of classed in that term of taking over a borough's electricity power. But we've put into this request all the public education, public notice, all of the things that you would want to make sure that consumers aren't negatively impacted by this decision, or by the borough doing this for the constituents. And we just need the rules to be clarified to include CCA as it currently allows boroughs to acquire power. So it's really no difference in the way power will be acquired between the way Lansdale does it and the way CCA will do it for the boroughs that decide to do it through CCA. The way Lansdale does it is they go out with a purchase market maker, and they work with others to do this, and they have a big aggregation purchase, so they get a good rate, and therefore they can offer their constituents a rate equivalent to what PECO does. But what this administrator, CCA administrator, is really going to be focused on is to make sure that we beat the price to compare, the PECO price to compare, while increasing the renewable percentage. So by default, all the people that are buying power are just going for the lowest cost provider, and so therefore it's the current grid mix. It's got the 30% nuclear, 30% coal, and 30% natural gas. And so the CCA group wants to start to shift that purchasing to say we're going to start buying more solar, wind, and renewable sources, and we're going to keep your price below what PECO price to compare is. So the reason why we feel this is a competitive or a equal service that PECO offers is that when any new resident moves into the PECO region, they get the PECO default supply, right? So in a sense, you could make an argument to the PUC, well, you're letting PECO determine the price for everybody who moves into a territory. So why wouldn't we let the CCA be the default supply for a borough and give all these advantages to the consumer, consumer protection and all that, yet get the renewable benefits, because most of these are ready for 100 boroughs, and we'd like them to have a way to start getting more and more renewable electricity in their mix. So that's kind of the overall picture. And so, in a sense, you guys aren't sticking your neck out. You're just signing a letter of support, say, hey, PUC, we feel that this is good for you to do for boroughs, and somewhere down the road, after the boroughs do this, we're hoping that we can bring it forward for township. So though, as Andy mentioned, that's probably going to have to be a legislative decision. Whereas this borough mechanism is already in the authority of the code, so it doesn't need to go through legislation, it just needs to go through the PUC.
So I think you answered my next question there, but, so it's about cleaner sources of energy, but it's also about making sure that there's potentially lower, or at least equal pricing for the consumer. There's never a situation where, we went with cleaner energy and it just happens to cost people more and that's the default. So it's both. It's competitive pricing and cleaner energy sources. Always both.
Yeah, because when you go out to PA Power Switch and you choose one of the other providers, they typically give you a lower rate at the beginning, but then they start to increase the rate. So what they're doing is they're taking their advantage of buying for a lot of different people in Pennsylvania, and they're buying the lowest rate, and they're making a profit on some of it. And then they start to raise the rate to get it closer to price to compare. Whereas the CCA administrator is going to really focus on not making profit as much as let's buy as much renewable electricity as we can. As you get more and more boroughs together, then what we'll do is go out and actually find some land in Pennsylvania and build a big solar farm like Philadelphia did and State College is doing and some other entities. University of Pennsylvania has a solar farm, et cetera. So then you get the best bang for the buck. Because when you can buy a big solar farm and you own that space, you lock in a lower rate for the 25, 30 years that the panels produce, and you're not, subject to the variation of electricity cost. As we're seeing right now, natural gas costs are going up. And they keep climbing because we're exporting natural gas outside the United States. So our electric costs keep incrementing up, and you can see this for the township. Your last contract, you were at 4.6 cents a kilowatt hour. Now you're at 6.4 cents a kilowatt hour. And when I asked your service provider, if we renewed this month, it would be up to 7.2. So in a sense, you're in good shape because you've locked in a 3-year contract at 6.4 cents a kilowatt hour, but we don't know in the next 3 years, if natural gas keeps going up, what your price will be. So that's why this CCA is really going to help aggregate and do this better than the EGSs are doing.
I mean, the CCA objective is to keep the cost down, but the consumer always has a choice to go to PA Power Switch and shop for themselves for their generator. That is not taken away from them.
No, that makes sense. But if the default is you're going there, and then by the time you realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm paying more than I could, or now I have to go and hunt for a lower cost provider. But it sounds like that's not the case. That there'll always be a competitive price right at the start. The default is a competitive price.
That's the intent, is to make sure that we beat the utility rate that everybody gets by default. And they've shown that true in New York, and the administrator right now that we're working with to get this program started is the one that did it in New York, and believe that they have enough experience to make this really successful for Pennsylvania. So we think it'd be good for the township to offer a letter of support just to let the PUC know you believe in this philosophy.
I mean, Alex, do we put ourselves at any risk we haven't considered? Creating a letter of support?
No, and it would just be a policy statement that you'd be sending over to the department. You would need to vote on it at a public meeting, because you'd be speaking on behalf of council. But I'm not seeing any risks. Doylestown is one of them. We represent Doylestown, and we were okay with them doing it as well.
Are there any efforts to create legislation that would allow non-borough municipalities to join in some kind of CCA, some aggregation?
Not at this time, sadly, because the legislature is so split. That the House passed community solar in the last session in March, and the bill sat in the Senate, and now it's going to expire, and the new 2-year session starts next year, so the bill will have to be reintroduced. So that was the best hope for any renewable energy, new allowance for consumers. And community solar would allow us as consumers to subscribe to somebody's community solar farm and get it. So if we were a renter, or if we had a house that had shade and we couldn't put solar on our own property, community solar would be the way to go. But sadly, the Senate didn't bring it, or didn't vote on it, and it doesn't sound like they are as interested, because there's such a natural gas legacy here in Pennsylvania that people aren't, wanting to let go of that and believe that renewable energy is the better future for Pennsylvania. So we think that boroughs is the really mechanism to get this running, and then as more and more boroughs join in, then we'll show the state how much interest and enthusiasm is for this, and then, introduce it in legislation.
Any other questions for, UB? All right, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Bill, very much.
Do you want to do this? Or you want to
How
have
do
more
you all
discussion?
feel
Or
about it? Want to discuss it, Aaron, Nick?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just have to, the first 2 slides, but
And then,
I'll take a look at it before.
and then Karen, it would have to go on our regular meeting board to vote on that letter, to send it on behalf of the township.
Yes, okay, yeah. And I'm just, we just have a tomorrow meeting for Friday, so let me, I'll send it over to you, Alex. Do you want the same one that the Doylestown Borough used? Which we have that sample, or do you want the one from, was it Sierra Club?
You can, that Word document just lets you edit it the way you want, so you can draft it whichever version you feel more comfortable with. It's up to you guys.
What was the difference between, though, that the
I think the
Doylestown one was from?
the original was just a template that went out to like a whole group of people. And then, so we had, different entities kind of offer support, so not just townships or boroughs, but others. And so we kind of made it a generic letter. And then Doylestown, you might see that there's a few things they tweaked. So you might just read it over and see which one you feel more comfortable with, and
Happy to do that.
make your own notes.
I'd be happy to see Alex's recommendations on that.
Yes, thanks, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Okay, and then next week we will be swearing our new police officer, William Alua, and that will be Jody.
No, it's actually not, right?
Who's with?
She's not available. I do have another, it escapes me which district justice it is, but someone else agreed to do it.
Okay.
She's not available.
So we'll have a district justice available to swear in.
Yes.
the officer. All right, and then will this be at our regular meeting that we will make a motion to designate Matt West as our township manager designee? We did receive word that he passed the background test, so everything's in order for him.
Yes, and he'll be here Monday night for that.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah.
All right, so,
Want to sign that, or?
yeah, I guess, did I make the motion and then someone can second it and we'll
Yeah.
vote on it and comments and all of that? Sunshine law. The announcements of our executive session and the minutes, and the reports of bills. And other than that, does someone want to announce the upcoming budget meeting and the change of time for December and reorganization meeting, all those in one? Oh, Christopher.
I'll do it.
Okay, so Christopher will make, and just do what A, B, and C all together.
Got it.
All right, anything else from administration?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Police and public safety, the fire alarm ordinance draft, have we done the changes to make sure that it's clear that the penalties are only,
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either.
I don't think so.
okay, so I guess that just needs to be done, right?
I think this was maybe not the most recent version, or?
I felt that way too, but I believe it was the most recent, one. But, you know, Alex, or not? Only because,
This is, I thought we were discussing having a separate fee structure for residential and commercial and then setting up a resolution, so that way it would give more discretion for the police to handle those, and then we were getting rid of that section D.
well, I mean, I guess the problems I have, a couple problems. There are dollar numbers in the ordinance, which we really try not to do, because every time you want to increase a fee, then, you know.
So we would not have the dollar.
I don't think so. We try not to do it. I know it was in the old one. It was $5, and this raises it to $25. And this is just to get the license and the permit requirements. In that section, 14-45, page number here, but I think, you know, all fees should be by resolution. That's number one. This doesn't talk about, I think this ordinance should also mention the fact that besides getting like a license from the police department, you need an actual like fire suppression permit from the code department. So whether you're putting in an alarm, a sprinkler, or a hood, you know, a cooking hood, you need a fire suppression permit. And that's not listed in here at all. I just think it should be, because if you were just to read this, you would think, oh, it's $25, and it's not $25. That's that. But the main thing I thought you wanted to do was to have a different fee structure for firemen who
Yes.
get up in the middle of the night
Yes.
compared
Yes.
to
Yes.
police officers who are already on the road.
Yes.
So I don't see any of that in here.
You know, I guess the resolution was not sent with the ordinance that we were preparing, because we were going to have those fees.
In an ordinance, too?
Yes.
Or in a resolution?
So have an
Pursuant
ordinance.
to the annual fee schedule set forth by the township for residential and commercial violations, where we have in 1450A. And then obviously, I guess the resolution what we were having was fees included was not
No.
attached to my email with this amended version, because that's what I thought we were trying to do to set those. I'll send that over tomorrow morning.
I
I do
thought we
have-
also wanted to separate, residential and commercial and fire and police.
Yes.
Because we said we didn't want anybody, even if my kid sets off the alarm 6 times this year, accidentally, my home security alarm, we didn't want people to feel like they were going to get a fine. Right?
And I do have, I have what I had submitted as part of the resolution that council would have to pass, so that they didn't have to change the ordinance every time, where it does separate, I didn't realize nobody else had it. I didn't make copies for everybody. I can hand these around. But it separates the fire with a higher fine, and then the civilian, regardless of what kind of alarm it is. And what I did is, in the wording, after the first 3, where you could get a fine of $50 for a residence, that we had in here that a fine may be imposed, because my intention was not to impose a fine, but to leave that possibility if there was a chronic problem and somebody refused to get it fixed, that we still give ourselves the opportunity to force them to get it fixed. But we did separate it between fire, and it's something that has to go before council anyway, but I do have a 4-page packet of things for the resolution.
And Alex have it?
Alex does have it.
Oh, he does have it, okay, okay.
Yeah.
good,
And
sorry.
we're going to pass a resolution at the same time we pass the ordinance, so that then the fee structure can be set up in the resolution.
Yes,
Okay.
because we're going to have to re-advertise this.
I didn't advertise it. This
Right.
was a draft.
Right, and this, because we.
I advertised
But
it.
instead of
last
having to
month.
re-advertise it every time you want to change the fees, it's
We'll
just
just
a resolution.
a resolution, the way that you do any fee structure permit for anything.
Right. so, I mean, that's why I put this as a draft again, because, advertised, but it was tabled, so, well, it will, when we get it in proper form, it'll have to be re-advertised, but, we're getting closer. I don't think we're getting closer. I don't think we're there yet.
But we're taking this off for now.
Yes.
We won't do
yeah,
anything at
okay.
regular
Yeah, we
meeting.
won't have time.
We'll just move forward with it.
Revision.
Draft until it's
Revising
ready.
that. Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Anything else, Chief?
I did have, I know, again, we discussed it might be premature, but if council has given any thought to my budget requests, for me to make it work, I'm looking for some type of guidance, because I would really need to at least start to appoint 2 people in December, only because the academy starts in January. We have to give them tests before we can even appoint them, and then the academy has to do the same. And again, I know you haven't finished the budget, but I still am in a position where I have to at least ask, because it's going to take me till after June to even see these people if I start now. If I don't, if they're even still available, it'll take over a year.
And I guess we don't have yet an indication of what that cost would be, right, Kellen? Just, per officer, what that would add to not even knowing what the whole budget is and what we have to commit to. We're going to need some indication of what amount 1, 2, 3, or 4 officers would add to a budget.
Yeah, I can send that to you guys.
I thought we did get that.
Yeah.
Did we get
I
that?
thought like with 1, 2, 3, and 4 officers, and then projected out to 2029.
Yeah, okay.
I think we
Yeah.
had just said we wanted to make sure everything was included, that there wasn't
Oh,
anything that was-
gotcha.
You're right, because we did have one.
We do
And then
have
we said, let's just make sure that everything that's a part of that package is included, so we're seeing it in one place.
Gotcha.
And I don't, do we have that? Maybe I'm mistaken, but do we have that, Kellen, or no?
I can get it to you though.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get it to you tomorrow.
Well, that's fine, I just didn't know if I missed it or we missed it, I just,
Yeah.
There are a few things missing, I
Yeah.
think, from that schedule.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Not much, but a little bit.
So I think where we are, Chief, is that we just don't even know what the impact is yet, even, not just the starting salary, but what that will do to our budgets going forward when you combine everything that every new employee, including a police officer, adds to our budget, to our bottom line.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'm not pushing back. I just want to make sure that council understands that it's very time sensitive, and especially this month with Thanksgiving coming, for me to make appointments, I need to start calling tomorrow to get doctors, psychologists, to give them their tests, to get the results back, to even be able to truly offer them employment. So I'm just telling you what I'm up against. I mean, Thanksgiving is 3 weeks from tomorrow, and the academy starts January 2nd. So it's very tight.
So ideally, would you want an answer before our next budget meeting?
I was hoping for an answer tonight,
Yeah.
at least with the first 2 people, because they're the 2 that have to go to the academy. I can't just pick and choose. They both need the police academy, so they're not out till June. They're good candidates. The next one after that is already a Philadelphia police officer, but I have people that are ready to retire. There's the potential, if you were to allocate those extra 4 people, that I'm putting 7 people on with all the retirement. So I'm really trying to get the best people, because once I get down to number 5, 6, or 7, if they've taken other jobs, I'm pushing the limit. I'm not keeping the list available. I'd rather go short than take people that we don't want here for the next 25, 30 years.
So all three of them need the academy?
The next 2 need the academy. If it makes it any easier, and I know that this is still not anything concrete, I do have an officer that's already come to see me. I mentioned that says he's leaving January 17th. So one of those people theoretically could take his place if council decides we're not increasing. And I have another officer that's told me, again, I don't have it in writing, but he's told me in June, he's also in the drop program, that he is leaving. He has a business that's set up. So that through attrition for those next 6 months, if you decide you don't want to increase the department, we would then, before these people even hit the street, we would be back to the 48 I have now. I'm just looking for a way. I'm not trying to trick you into getting more people. I'm looking for a way to get them into the academy to start this long process, because we're talking, again, 7-8 months before I actually see them again if I start tomorrow.
So with those two slots opening up in 2025, one January, one June, you're saying there could be maybe an overlap where we have.
On the payroll, yes, I wouldn't have them.
Actually increasing the force.
Back down to 48.
And then you're right.
An overlap for 1 month with the first officer and then another 6 months with the other. Now, also, just to remind you, they're getting a lesser salary, and I have the grants available that I've used the last 2 times where I'll get 75% of their salary back and 45% of the police academy back. So the cost will be minimal, at least for those two, maybe give you more time to make a decision.
Yeah, give us some breathing room without losing highly qualified people, but also knowing that we don't know what our final budget is and what our income is going to be. We will know that. It doesn't commit us, but it at least gets us good people with a short-term overlap of extra pay that isn't. Does that sound right, Kellen? Am I? I'm
No, I understand what I understand what he means, yeah. So these guys
Go
are
up to
gonna,
50 before you come back down to
Yeah.
48. You'd go up to 50 before you come back down to 48, is what you're saying, in the year.
For a month for the one person, then we'd be down to 49, and then
Because then come January, we wouldn't be filling that slot, it's already filled.
be
And
filled.
come June, we wouldn't be filling that officer and drop leaving June.
if you decide not to increase,
Not to
yes.
increase at all.
Right, if that's, after reviewing the whole budget, if that's what we come to decide.
But it sounds like the person leaving in January, that's solid, that's confirmed, and June is,
Well, they've both come to see me.
okay.
See you.
And that's how the last few people have done it. Sometimes some of these people feel hesitant to put it in writing. I don't know why they're so, when they say that they've got something lined up and that they're going, but sometimes, and I don't like to push anybody, I don't want them to feel like you have to tell me, but it made it perfectly clear. They actually gave me an actual date, January 17th, and I think June 25th it was, that they're going. I'm confident on the January 17th, because June 25th is so far away. If something happens, I don't want to mislead you either. I don't know for a certainty, but they have told me, yes, I plan to go, and this is what I plan to do, and this is the business that I'm opening, so there are plans there. There's a reason for that.
Okay, well, January 17th is really close.
Yeah, that's really close.
And so it sounds like that officer has plans in place pretty solidly.
Yeah,
And are they both in the drop program?
they are. They've both been in.
But they're choosing to leave.
Leave early. That was their intention all along.
The January 17th officer, were that person not to leave January 17th, what would be the final date under the drop program for that one?
I think he would still have 3 years left, maybe 4. I'm trying to remember. I think it's 3 years left for him.
And the officer who's anticipating leaving June 25th?
It would be, it might be 4 for him. I don't think that's the case for either. In fact, the last 1, 2, 3 officers that have left after only 2 years of their drop. They haven't stayed for the full amount.
That's when the end is in sight and they've started planning.
Especially if they're working shift work. I mean, once they get into their mid-50s or so, it gets difficult working overnight and so forth, so they choose to, if they can find something where they can work daytime, have weekends off, it's like a vacation for them.
How do you all feel about making a decision, I guess, now about 1 or 2 officers not adding to, but overlapping, and then making later a decision if that's an addition or an overlap?
I mean, I feel okay about it, given the situation with these people leaving.
I have two questions, I guess. One, Helen, would it be possible for you to tell us even just what the costs are for the overlap, like a 6-month overlap, a
yeah.
1-month overlap, just so we know at least what that budget impact is?
Yeah.
And maybe if you're, I mean, you said you'd get us the other information tomorrow. I mean, I don't know if that's unreasonable, but if we saw that, I mean, maybe we could make a relatively quick decision
Yeah.
while having that information in our hands. And Chief, I wouldn't want you to do anything that felt uncomfortable, like you're pushing people. We don't want to feel like, we don't want
Yeah.
anybody to ever feel like they've been pushed out. But is it reasonable to ask, since especially like the January one is so close, like could we ask for something in writing? Because that would help us know, like with
Yeah.
certainty, this is one that definitely, it's a retirement, it's a replacement. And then we can kind of work from there, knowing anything on top of that is a maybe or a likely, or it could increase the numbers.
I'm happy to ask them. Maybe Alice can tell me, because I don't want to mislead them. If they ask me, should they change their mind? If they say, I anticipate leaving, is that good enough? I mean, I think their worry is if they put it in writing that come that date, if for some reason something happens at home, a spouse, they need to stay, that they've given up their right. And I don't want to tell them, no, that's not the case, if in fact it is the case.
I'm not sure what a formal process is, but I'm assuming that's the concern of them, putting it in writing versus us trying to hold it to them for the set retirement. I'm sure there may be language in the agreement of how they give notice of their pending end of employment. So if they put it in writing, I would have concerns of if they try to change that later on.
It's kind of a catch-22. Like, I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, and I would never want someone to feel like they've been pushed out. But if we're also making decisions, like budget-based decisions, making assumptions about someone's retirement date, and that changes, and we've already made other commitments, like, I'm a little concerned that the budget impact could be something maybe we haven't anticipated. So I'm a little bit caught in the middle. I mean, I just feel like I don't ever want people to feel unwelcome or pushed out, but just trying to manage the budget impact is challenging without being certain about some of that.
I'll certainly approach them and ask them, and I'll either way, I'll let you know. So I mean, put that into your decision.
I mean, does that sound,
Yeah, that's okay. I always
but I don't
like
know.
more information to make a decision.
Yeah, and I really, with 2 people leaving in 2025, I do want to get the best possible replacements for Plymouth. We're very fortunate with the people you've already hired, Chief, that we have really good people that we want to keep till their retirement.
They're good, and we got a diverse list. I mean, the next one is a female. I have a Hispanic. I have an African American. This is an impact for decades, and they're on a lot of lists. Can I just ask Alex, while we're here, something quick? If council decides later, and I miss the opportunity for anybody that has to go to the academy, since they're still on the list and there's no police academy, if they say hire, am I able to skip over people just because we can't put them on right now?
I don't know the civil service list that well off the top of my head to answer that. I apologize, Chief.
You're always going to look at the top 3.
I know, but I've gotten
You
the
don't have to
advice
go in
from,
order,
I've got the
right?
advice from Mike Clark, I couldn't do it for years. So if they change their mind now, I'm suspicious. So I don't know.
Was just the previous civil service attorney said that you could
No,
choose?
Mike Clark said
No, I
this.
said, was it the previous one who said you could choose any one of the 3?
He did.
Any one of the top 3. If you had a veteran, you had to take that person, but if you didn't,
And so does this civil service solicitor, says the same
he
thing.
says the same thing. You can choose any one of the top 3. You don't have to take the top person. You can take any, but you think Mike's saying you have to take the top.
I know he said that. He wouldn't let
So we just
us.
have to get that call.
I can
clarified.
clarify that.
Yeah.
Because if it is any one of the top 3, then maybe you can always get one.
The thing is, the good ones, the ones that are diverse, the ones that can't afford to go to police academies are the ones that we'd be skipping over, which is a shame. That was the whole point of changing the ordinance. But anyway, I just want you to have the information, that's all. That's just so you have those booklets which shows who the people are.
And they are and everything,
yeah.
yeah.
So I will approach those officers and I'll get back to Karen and let her know whether I get a letter or whether I couldn't.
If they're comfortable,
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I'll get an
maybe,
answer on the top 3.
And maybe with that information from Kellen about the overlap costs, we know exactly what we're dealing with, and maybe we can make at least a quick decision on two. I think so. Yeah, I just want to say, Chief, and thank you. You know, you've worked really hard to create a list of outstanding candidates and diverse candidates, and so we don't want to be an obstacle to that. We want to find a way to work together.
No, I appreciate your help, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, they seem like really, you've met them, but on paper, they seem really great additions for all four, so. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. And Kellen, thanks for getting us that information so we can move quickly with a decision. Anything else, Chief?
I have nothing else, thank you.
Public Works, Sewer, do we have anything?
I have nothing. Thanks.
Okay, so we have, under engineering, a pollution reduction plan announcement.
How deep do you want me to go?
So, Jim, I guess you don't have, can you just borrow that for a second and read it?
Formulas on the white.
Yeah, right.
See if that covers it for like an announcement next week. That's what.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
all
Beth-
we need to do.
That's what
is
Beth
make
had
the
given us
announcement.
this. Yeah.
If you need any more background as to what this is all about, I'm happy to add that, but I think this
It's good enough.
is good enough. We're going to make the announcement that we're preparing these plans, and if people have questions about the plans, I'm certainly there and able to answer. But if we didn't want to spend 45 minutes getting deep into stormwater management, we didn't have to. Yeah.
You'll have a 2-minute.
2 minutes, yeah, right. Exactly.
Is it fair to say, and would it help in something like this, if this is going to be publicized, to say that there's no impact to any resident property or homes with this work? Just so no one's questioning.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's
are they gonna
under
be on
this
my
work,
property?
under this scope plan, that's correct. But recall that, we do this every couple of years. We do this little educational process as to what this stormwater program is all about, mandated from the EPA down to DEP down to us. And we've got to maintain a permit to operate our storm sewer system. That MS4 permit has all these obligations attached to it. One obligation is to help reduce the amount of sediment and nutrient pollution in our streams and waterways. That's coming from existing impervious cover that pre-exists modern stormwater theory. So it's our roads, it's our parking lots, it's anything that drains into our storm sewer system we have to treat. And so this is actually a plan of how we're going to intercept some of that runoff and treat it. And that is existing detention basins we're going to retrofit with regard to old design versus new design. It's stream bank stabilization projects. It's there's stuff in this plan that DEP has approved that needs to be advertised.
The 9-page plan, it is on our website. It was advertised as required on October 15th. It sits out there for 30 days. Next, then we get back to Beth. Nobody's asked about it yet, so, but if they do, it is on the website, and I guess we'll close the comments by November 14th, and
They have fulfilled their obligation to DEP.
so does somebody want to read this
So
next
is
week?
that what we would
engineer?
read? This, I mean,
Yeah.
what's here would just be what we announce.
Correct.
Don't have to do that.
Okay, excellent. Sure. Okay, anything else under engineering? That's it.
Barring any questions, that's all that I had.
Under subdivision and land development, we do not have any actions.
Exciting. Although we should take action on somebody, so throw them the heck out.
So
That's another.
The planning agency is going to meet at 7 o'clock right behind us, and they are going to be reviewing the St. George Coptic Orthodox Church on 2907 Jolly Road. That should be before you next month for their conditional approval, next month.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one is moving. The rest, not a lot of action.
Lots of discussion, but not actually making progress towards getting to the plans.
Yeah, on a couple of them.
Okay. All right. It's so good to see you, Jim. Is there anything under code enforcement?
Nothing.
All right. You look great. So,
There's only one zoning hearing, it's for signage for Outback Steakhouses. You know, they're rebuilding that store, that restaurant.
I can take this one.
you take that one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The new sign you're gonna save from your house. Not too far.
Bask in the glow.
Of Outback Steak. You get a blooming onion every Thursday if they're putting that sign on.
Yeah, Bloomin' Brands, that's an interesting name. Parks and Recreation.
Our upcoming events and the tree lighting is mentioned at the end.
Okay, we have,
I would just say great job today too, Phil, to you and your team on the veterans, honoring the veterans today. It was really
Thank you for your help. Appreciate you emceeing for us, reading the names.
You did the heavy lift.
yeah, really nice. The speaker was great, very inspiring guy, and it was really nice. It was nice to see the veterans, and we were all in our summer wear.
We froze up there.
Yes, last year was.
Yeah, we've had some cold ones of those. Well, we'll never move it in because of cold, because that's what the first speaker told me. He said, you can move it in if it rains, but if it's cold, veterans are still coming. That's what he said. So we've had some bitter days, but not today.
No, it was a really nice event, and the veterans always appreciate it.
We're very fortunate to be able to have those folks serve us, and we do
Absolutely.
thank them, so.
And we were able to mention our almost 103-year-old veteran, who was too ill to make it,
Yeah.
but he was with us in
He's
spirit.
got the other 5 of them, so, yeah,
And he enjoys it too, so I know that
he's a neat guy.
his family will bring back to him that we mentioned him. Missed him.
Thanks to Rick's crew for sprucing up the whole area. It looked really nice. It did.
It did.
It was all mulched, it was all the grasses were cut, the whole thing was beautiful.
Yeah.
Rick.
They trimmed the trees, the
Yeah, they did everything.
complex looks amazing.
Yeah, we did a shout out to
To your crew.
to the grounds crew for keeping it looking so nice and looking so great.
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Yes.
Great, really did.
It looked really, really good. We had a professional photographer, Phil got a professional photographer there and was able to take pictures of all our veterans who were there in front of the column that represented the branch of the service of the military that they served in. So it was really nice. Our officers who were veterans were there and got their pictures made. It's a really good event. Juan was there from IT. Okay, so who wants to read the upcoming events for Parks and Recreation?
I'll do it.
Okay, Nick, thank you. So, the next item, under planning and development, the Historical Architectural Review Board has an update to the ordinance.
So this is a draft White Marsh ordinance that they are considering in order to streamline the process. That way that they could administratively decide what is considered minor and not send them to the full harbor board, but then only review major projects. Do I have that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
And-
We get a lot of projects at the HARB about like roofs on buildings that aren't historical buildings, but they're in the historical district. So, and that's not the only one, but we get a lot of those where it's like, okay, why is HARB really reviewing this kind of thing? And the administrator, Charlie, from White Marsh was interested in an ordinance like this that would enable him, and I think it's just him as the administrator, to basically weed those out so that we don't have to have hard meetings for a set of roof replacements on non-historical buildings.
So is this something that Plymouth also needs to do, that we need to do in conjunction because we share the historical district?
And it would probably make sense that way, while Aaron's been sitting on the board and listening to those roof projects in White Marsh, if we don't do something and they do, then if they have those same issues in Plymouth, it could hypothetically end up there as well. So it would make sense to have a similar language, to have a similar scheme, if council's inclined to have us authorize an individual ordinance of this effect. And generally, we're okay with the language in here.
Oh, okay, so you've reviewed it and...
Yeah, Aaron sent it over 2 weeks ago.
All right, so all we would need to do is to change some of the wording, to reflect that it's a Plymouth, not a
Change
White
White Marsh to Plymouth, put it in the proper section.
Supervisors to,
Council, and put it in the proper section of Plymouth's code. But it could be ready with the advertisement for next month.
Okay, you just have to... All right, that sounds good. I think we should move forward with that. Y'all agree?
Yeah.
Yep. So there won't be anything announced next week.
No, it'll come off the
It'll
agenda.
come off for next week, but it will probably go back on in December. All right, we have our citizen board vacancy announcements, right? And, so, let's do those. You want to do those, Lynn? All right, thank you. And then separately, we will do the holiday tree lighting ceremony announcement, which got done twice last month. I apologize, Kristen.
It's okay. You can do it 3 times if you want to go with that.
Those are just
Tree lighting.
That is a great event. Oh, yeah, that's a huge event. No matter how cold it is, the kids are running around like
The
crazy.
tree looks good this year.
Yes.
Good shape, so.
So,
Do you want me to read that?
sure. You want to read that, Kristen? Thank you.
You gonna let her? You gonna let her?
Well, since I'm not the one who's doing upcoming events, Nick, you will be the one not to step on her toes instead of me. Okay, and then under our miscellaneous, I think that the Cunnytown update is something that it would be nice to rotate that among council members.
I'll totally read it this time.
You want to do that one? Okay, so following your holiday tree announcement,
Oh, yeah.
take that on. And I think it'll also be good to remind people that we want to do this through the update process because of transparency,
Yes.
rather than individual emails that people send. When it is these Cunnytown projects that are appearing on our website, let them know that they're on the website, right there on our front page, our homepage of our website, and it says Cunnytown News, I think is what it's called. And so they can
As the
read
dates
it.
come in, they'll populate on the website.
Right.
Go through.
I can write something up that I'm gonna say and
Okay.
send it to everybody to make sure, everyone approves.
So in replying to your email, just at like,
I know,
Yeah.
it's fine.
but the question is, do you want this in a different format? I just did a chronological order of things that have happened since the last meeting. I could organize it by the crosswalk, the sidewalk, which is now no sidewalk. It could be speed bumps or humps or slots. I mean, I could organize it differently, or however you want it is fine with me.
What do you guys think? I mean, I think when you're reading a website, I mean, maybe we could date each update, but then keep your dates in here, like when we actually put the update, I don't know. Because the only thing I was trying to say was, I don't want like the end to be at the top.
You want the most
Or the
current?
beginning
You want
to
the
be
most
at the
current.
top.
You want the
I
most current
to be at the top, so
On the
that they can
website.
go there, and the latest update is at the very top.
I think the website's fine if it's incomplete chronological, or reverse chronological. So most
Yes,
people prefer-
reverse chronological is what I meant.
I think it'd be good, I think website is fine if it's reverse chronological, just
By
overall.
project.
But I think
Yeah,
this
the
should be
update
by
needs to be in chronological.
regular
like when
chronological.
we're reading
And I
it.
think that would be good to split by project.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it always would be
In person, I think it should
if
be
it was
split by
split up
project.
by project.
Yeah, because people want to know, like, what's happening with the crosswalk? Don't tell me you did something 2 weeks ago that we don't hear again about the crosswalk till, oh, wait, in the agenda, or in the lineup, it comes up a week later, like,
Yeah.
makes more
Yeah.
sense to say, here's what's happening with the crosswalk.
Crosswalk.
And I would, I mean, if it were me delivering it this time, I would want to say, here's what we did, and dates, yeah. On the 17th, we did this, on the 21st, we did this, and here's what's next Thursday or on whatever.
Right.
November 4th, we have a follow-up phone call, or there's a visit, or there's a whatever. I
That's the
would
next
also
thing we
visit-
anticipate.
Yeah, because they're going to ask, like, well, what are you doing next? Or, well, what about that?
Exactly.
So I would go what we did and what we're doing next with the dates attached to show like there's not only progress, but we've got these things on our calendar.
Okay, so like this for your meetings, and then the other way for the website. Like,
Well, chronologically, reverse
Reverse chronological on the website.
and split by project on the website.
I don't know if it needs to be split on the
I
website.
don't
tell
know,
me-
I
just
think
tell me
on
how
the
you want it.
website, It would be good if it was split
Split?
up by
You
project.
tell me. Do it however you want. I just want to be clear.
I know.
I'm trying to imagine how that's gonna happen, split up by project, but I don't know.
I think it's most user-friendly by project, because if I have to keep
Yeah.
scrolling down to go, oh, wait, there's something about the crosswalk.
But maybe
There's
each,
something about the crosswalk. To me now, that's annoying versus, tell me what's happening with the crosswalk, like here's a crosswalk update. So as we get.
I think it
Right.
might be fine if because in truth, they're gonna be following this all the time.
If they can find
They
it.
really-
It's right on the front page twice, under links and news, but.
But, aside from like the meetings, like, I think as long as it leads with, like, the tagline of it, big capital letters at the beginning, crosswalk, guardrail, whatever, even if they're not necessarily split by project, is gonna be enough for them to scroll through quickly. Because there's not gonna be, like, 30 updates for them to scroll through. It might be, what, is that even 10?
yeah, it's not that many.
Yeah, like, I feel like,
I just
as
feel
long
like-
as there's
yeah.
something, some piece on the website that says, this update's gonna be about this. So they know, I'm looking for crosswalk. Okay, crosswalk, I gotta read this one. Guardrail, I don't need to read that one. Like, I think that would be fine scrolling wise. Whereas in person, I think you want.
More user-friendly,
split.
like if something jumps off the page of you if I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
But when in the meeting, I would just.
I want that
Yeah,
split
yeah,
up by
just
project.
all crosswalk,
Right.
until we're talking crosswalk, then we're gonna go on to guardrail.
So like even for this, to rearrange this in by project in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah, yeah, I really think that would make it clearer for people.
Okay, subject.
I mean, honestly, I would prefer the website have individual sections and they all go in reverse chronological order, but I'm not asking you to actually do that. Because that sounds like.
I don't know. I just give my stuff to Brandon and he puts it up. I mean, I could give him the right order, but I don't know how many. So right now, like say under like news and quick links, there it says Coneytown update. So when you click on that, it takes you to so far like 4 other documents have been posted: the permit, the studies, and things like that. But this they didn't get yet because I really thought maybe council would like to see.
No, I think that's
this
good,
each
yeah.
week, each month
Yeah.
before it gets posted. I
think
that's
so.
why I didn't put this up there yet, but that takes them to links to other documents, so I guess in the future, it might just be like it might just be on a piece of paper. I could make 4 separate pieces of paper: guardrail, crosswalk, sidewalk, speed slots, or, there might not be anything to put in each one. I might have to work with Brandon how that's actually going to work.
Coneytown its own webpage.
this is beyond me, so you.
It sounds like this is such a mess
It is.
that it's going to need its own webpage that they can just go to there and then it's dedicated to whatever you guys want to put on it. Otherwise, if on that homepage, you're going to have to move something out.
Okay.
I
Well,
gotcha.
if you put other quick links in, it might push down.
Right.
It would unless he inserts things under it.
It'll
Always be at the top, it's at the top.
change the whole scenario on that webpage. But if we can put a link on there that Coneytown special page, and then right in there how Chronicle order,
Right.
reverse Chronicle, whatever, however you want it. You want it from Z to A and B to 2, who knows? Whatever you want me to do.
So what we can do is, on our homepage, on our township homepage, we can have, where it says Coneytown News, they click and it takes them to a new webpage.
Yes.
That's just Coneytown.
Yeah, I
So
think
that we're
that's
not
good.
messing up our
Yeah.
homepage
Right.
every time we
Yeah.
add something.
And then maybe that is by project in reverse
Yep.
chronological order. So somebody could truly look at a project and just
Yes.
find out what's going on with the crosswalk, reverse chronological order, last piece of news to oldest piece of news.
Because this is gonna be going on for like another year.
Yes.
At least.
And then, and when there are things like the 15 conditions from PennDOT for the crosswalk, that links to a document, right, Karen?
Well, yeah, that document's already up there.
That's
now.
already up there.
Yeah, the PennDOT permit's up there now.
So if they ask at the meeting, well, what are those 15 conditions and where do we stand? You say the 15, we're not going to go through the 15 conditions in a public meeting for other people who visit our website, our meetings to have to listen to it. They can just go and they can look at it. They've got the update, they know what's happening. These are the 15 conditions. And here's where we stand with the different things we're doing, like the right of entry with the property owner.
Right, because
I think we
that's
should
part of the
update them on
update.
what conditions we have met.
Well, but I think aren't we saying that's part of the update? Like every time there's a condition met, that would be part of the update, right?
Yeah. So they can go to that page and find it.
Yeah, but
If
we
they
shouldn't
have-
make them figure it out. I think to Kristen's point, we'd say, there's 15 conditions, and we just met conditions 1, 7, and 9, you know?
Exactly, yes.
Or whatever.
Right.
Or their letter or number.
Yeah, we don't have to go through the full, this is the condition, but these are the ones we've met, these are the ones we anticipate to meet within
Right,
the
next
next.
we're working on 10 and 12, or whatever, just
Yes.
because they're gonna ask, like, to your point, they're gonna
Exactly.
say, like, well, what have you done? Have we met these conditions? What are you doing to meet these conditions? So I would
Exactly.
cut it off the pass and proactively say it.
Yes.
Okay.
To that end, I did just reach out to Peter O'Halloran today to find out how much money we should put in the 2025 budget for Coneytown improvements, because we have nothing in there right now. And he said, and I said, just, give it to me in round 25,000s, 25, 50, 75, whatever, for the crosswalk. And he said, put 75,000 in. So I asked Helen to do that, but I don't know if, you're going to include some kind of dollar limit to, because these things cost money.
Yeah.
So, that's just a consideration. Like, we're just now going to put 75,000 in for the crosswalk for next year. But I think it's just important that we think about that.
Yeah.
Everything we do, has to fit into the budget somewhere, and you have to have a dollar number on it. And then to stay in balance, we need to stick to the budget, right?
It's kind of the idea of a budget, right?
It's kind of the point. But anyway, it's just something we hadn't talked about yet. And I just want to bring that part to your attention too, because it's important.
Okay. And then, so, does anyone have questions about these items that are currently slated for the Coneytown update? And, okay with them going up, but you said these are not yet up there?
No, I didn't put it there. I thought
These
council
haven't
would,
been
this is
posted
a
yet.
good decisional memo here. But the first one, I'll just tell you, the gentleman who needs to give that form back, he and his wife need to sign it. When I spoke with him, he said, oh yeah, put it here, give me a little time. So, I don't want to really bug them, but I don't have I don't have them back yet. So, that's one thing. When, do you have any preference on when I call him back? And, is now the time to, just remind him I need those forms back, or let him,
We haven't
ask for
called
time?
him since the last time we asked.
I
Or
called him,
have.
I called him on the 17th of October. Well, we played phone tag for about a week, but when we spoke on the 17th, he said,
They give me a little more time.
he said, give me a little more time.
Gotcha, okay.
And it's been, I guess 2 to 3 weeks now, 3 weeks, I guess, almost.
I'd say start playing
I
phone
know, 3
tag
weeks I
until
feel like is
the
time
meeting.
to start contacting again.
I think it'd be good to at least go into the meeting, because 10, 17
Yeah,
to
and have
11.
contacted,
what,
started trying to contact
12?
him.
It's gonna be, that's almost a month.
And then I
Probably
think-
should have followed up at that point, so I think to at least say we have started following up to see how he's feeling.
And do you think we should not say his name? So
Correct.
that
Yes,
residents are not
yes.
bothering him? I mean, I don't want him to just pull back and say, I've had it.
Yeah.
I don't want
I
residents
agree, it could
bothering
ruin
him.
everything.
Yeah, so I think maybe just keep it as a property owner without stating their names, so maybe residents here. Okay, so we have, the next item is, thank you, Chris, our public works crew cleared everything, and is that gonna be a problem into the future with PennDOT, with our guys going out there and doing PennDOT work?
I don't think so.
Okay, I mean, I don't want conflicting unions getting concerned with each other's.
Yeah, as it stands right now, it's not. I mean, I have a very good relationship with them.
Oh, great, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I asked for permission before I even started.
Oh, okay, oh, great.
Chris, we wouldn't want to overcommit you or your team, but I'm sure they'll ask, like, are you going to do that again? Or if there's trash under there, they're going to be like, is somebody coming to pick it up? So maybe, again, just to get in front of it, maybe we say that kind of maintenance and cleaning work will be done twice a year, once now and once in May. Like, just so that we're clear, like, you've taken over something that really is PennDOT's responsibility, and here's the schedule by which we'll do this. Just because I don't want them harassing
Chris saying,
or
oh,
you
you know,
saying,
I found a bottle when I was
there's
walking my
a couple of
dog.
weeds
Where's-
in a bottle under there. Are they coming to get it? Like, that's not exactly what you've signed up for, and I don't want them to take for granted the goodwill of you and your team having done that work. That's not really yours to do.
Right, right.
I have a question about who's going to shovel the snow and salt it?
I know, I was thinking about that too.
You
find the sidewalk. It's
I thought Rick raised his hand, but.
The reason I'm asking is because we do the sidewalks now, so, I mean, is that?
We do the sidewalks on our property. We do
Right.
not do sidewalks on private property or PennDOT property.
Right, that's why I'm
Or
asking.
county.
That's-
We don't do the county
Okay.
either. Lots
We
of
don't
places
do
on
the
Ridge Pike don't get shoveled.
Yeah.
Over top of the bridges, over the turnpike.
And we don't even do it in our own parks. We say, please
closed.
don't walk on the sidewalks and on the trails in the park because we're not going to shovel them for you.
Maintained in winter weather.
Yeah, this is, so I think that, yeah, maybe we should specify that it's going to be limited to the weeds, dirt, and debris, that we're not going to be shoveling and salting because it is not township property for us to go on and do that. And you think twice a year? I mean,
what makes sense, Chris? That doesn't feel like it's a,
Yeah, I mean, we'll-
overuse of your team.
Yeah, we're traveling that way often, so, I mean, we'll see. A couple times a year would be fine, I think. Pruning back some of those trees on the hill, keep them, scrub trees that grow, and some of the trash we'll take care of.
So if we said twice a year, we could exceed their expectations. If you did any more than that, but
Yeah.
we wouldn't fall short. And it sounds like that's.
the first job was clearing up years of
Yes,
accumulated
yeah.
dirt and
Right.
soil and weeds. And
We
now,
already have the perpetual maintaining of the crosswalks, which will be at Thermo, which is quite pricey. So just something to think about when you're talking about budgets. That Thermo, especially with all the truck traffic there through attrition, is going to wear off pretty darn quick. Because it's kind of right on the turn, and it'll definitely get scrubbed off quick. And the Thermo is quite expensive, especially in the blocks. It takes up a lot of paint. So just something to consider. And one other thing I thought about, I know we were talking about speed slots. But keep in mind, with the amount of truck traffic that's down there, the wheelbase of the 10-wheelers that are coming down is the same wheelbase as a fire truck. So something to think of if you're looking at emergency vehicles to spread over that slot in order to get by, the truck, the big trucks are going to be able to do the same.
Yeah, I just drove down the street today where they are, and I was surprised how easily my car went right over them. I honestly was a little surprised that they would do much of anything,
Yeah, I agree.
especially with the large trucks.
People didn't slow down for them.
I mean, I did because I didn't know what to expect, but it didn't really.
Catch one tire or two?
It maybe caught one side.
I think that's what it's supposed to do, catch one side.
The ones on Hillcrest, where are we, down in?
Cow.
On DeKalb. Yeah.
I felt the same. I drove right over them with my truck.
Yeah.
I didn't hit anything.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of the one side. It really, I barely noticed,
The
honestly.
thing with snow plowing is that you're not going to go to the slot.
How fast?
I wasn't going that fast either. I really wasn't going fast. I had just pulled out of a doctor's office, so.
And what about, what are they made of, some kind of rubber
So
or
they can be
something?
asphalt.
It can be either or. The rubber gets abused in the snowstorm.
What happens when it snows?
The area of concern is when you're plowing them, the slot will not get clean. So the slot will freeze solid. So when you're plowing over them, you think about the gap, that we're not going to be able to get a plow between there, so that will freeze solid, so.
So is that a slipping risk for cars coming down unaware? Because
Yeah.
those houses are close to the road,
Right.
and on the other side, they're parking their cars really close to the road. So if a driver's coming down and hits the ice, especially at
area of
night when you
concern,
can't
for sure.
see,
Yeah.
it could risk damaging the cars that are parked. Because at night, that's when everyone's parked along that area. They're all in their homes, and they've come home for the day.
That's right.
The rest of the conditions are like on the October 22nd about the speed slots.
Oh,
There's a lot
You
more.
need support from Public Works for snow plowing and trash collection. You need support from the emergency services. And 70% majority of the residents living there, so if they know.
Living on that
On
street.
that street.
So
On
not
that street.
Fulton, not Old Elm.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
not
the one,
street.
just the
that
street.
So the ones
that's
whose
that?
houses would be affected if,
And
A
whose,
car
and whose
veered
vehicles
off.
are parked there. Those are the people who, and if there's any noise associated with, landscapers, their tractors behind bumping and making noise, it's the people who live on that street that are subject to the sound
Yep.
and the slippery conditions, creating a problem for their front yards and their vehicles.
they'll get the decision.
So
Well,
would
they're
this
the ones who-
include people in Conshohocken on that road, or does this just include Plymouth?
Because it
Like
changes
how-
the country really fast.
I guess that would depend on where PennDOT would want to put them.
Yeah, which-
PennDOT gets to pick where to put them.
Which side of the bridge? Is it going to be on the Conshohocken side of the bridge, or is it going to be on the Cliff Seal?
I
I think on the Johakan side, where the residents are.
Where the residents are, that's.
Would be
those-
more likely.
But it's up to PennDOT.
Should we, thinking about what Karen shared, like that we're already budgeting 75,000 for the crosswalk, which would be hopefully a 2025 project. We've got the guardrail, which is already in motion. I'm sure there's some cost attached to that project. We don't know what that is yet. And it sounds like the stop sign, if Cliffs is even open to it, maybe there's not a cost attached to that. But we've already probably got $100,000 in 2025 projects. Does it make sense to say these speed slots are a 2026 project? We're doing some of the exploration in 2025, including conversations about, can we plow these? Are they safe? Where are they going? Who do we have to ask? Have a town hall?
We're going to be doing everything we can to meet the conditions as soon as possible. We
Yeah.
made all the conditions in 25, great.
Yeah.
Budget-wise, we
Or even just to explore
But we may
it,
not
because,
meet the
like,
conditions.
Well, yeah,
We
like
may
I'm
get
thinking of
pushback from residents.
From
We may
residents.
get pushback from.
That's what I'm saying, like,
Chris says,
like, we
we
still need to
can't
meet all
plow.
the conditions.
Right.
So we anticipate that will be the bulk of 2025. So
So-
we're not even gonna consider budgeting it till 2026.
I'm
Because it
just
might
wondering
take
if
the whole
that
year to
buys
meet the
us
conditions.
some time to explore this and also sets their expectations, like, every month, we're not gonna be aggressively pursuing these speed slots because we have a lot of exploration to do. And even if all systems are go, can we afford to do all of these things in 2025? I mean, maybe that's $200,000 worth of work. Like,
Well, I was gonna ask, do we have any idea what speed slots would cost?
I don't know. I don't think the actual slots, if they're made of rubber, cost a whole lot of money, but there has to be a study. PennDOT would need a study to be done, and then PennDOT would decide, they want their engineers to determine where they go. They don't want our engineer to determine that. So they would determine where they would be placed. They would do some studies, I'm sure, for that. The township would have to pay to install and maintain them. The residents, 70% of the residents living on New Elm must agree to them. And again, that's probably in Plymouth, but again, I don't know if that includes anybody who lives in Conshohocken. We'll be going over them.
We need to know that from PennDOT, whether or not,
yeah.
because we're so close to another
Yeah.
municipality, do we have to get their buy-in as well?
You do need buy-in from all emergency services, police, ambulance, and fire companies, and the public works for snow plowing, trash collection. That's a PennDOT requirement. That's not just like.
But emergency services is going to include not just Plymouth Emergency Services, but Conshohocken's Emergency Services, because they drive that road with their fire trucks and ambulances,
I
right?
think you could always invite them, but I don't think they don't have to respond. They don't have to respond. They may, they probably will if
They
it's
shouldn't be a problem.
major fire.
They should not
We
be
do,
involved.
we do coordinated details there. They have just as many, well, not just as many, but they have complaints as well. So we've done things together. I think that they would be happy to, for their part, to say, yes, it's fine with the emergency services.
Yeah, the other thing I just want to say is if you decide to explore the speed slots, or if you decide to put them there on New Elm Street with PennDOT's permission, just be ready, because you've opened a can of worms
Them to go everywhere.
Everybody else has
neighborhood in
them.
this township on township roads, because you don't need, I don't even know if you need PennDOT's permission to put them on township roads.
No, but I think before.
I don't think you do, Ken.
You don't think so?
But I think before you go that route, I
Because you
think you
open
need
a
to have
huge can of worms.
our own, if we were to go that route and even do this there, anticipating it's going to create requests from our residents on our roads, that we need to
Adopting our
have some kind
standards.
of ordinance that sets forth, just as PennDOT has, what the requirements are. What percentage of the residents
Right,
have to
right.
buy in, what guidelines, criteria are there for the number of vehicles and the speed studies that need to be done? All of those things that PennDOT goes through when they want to, before they give approval, I think we should have some sort of criteria as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But maybe that's the reason to say, like, this is a 2026.
Yes, I think
We
that's
do not- we're
more
not-
reason to
this
say
is
that.
It's not even going to be
No
close until.
implementation in 2025 of this. We're doing exploration and for budget purposes.
And I think we don't update where we are in the exploration, but there are not going to be any updates. We're doing it, we're on it, but
We'll update you when we have updates to give.
Do we have any criteria that would mean that we wouldn't, if this was a township road, go with this?
Well, I had circulated something, just one that I found on the internet dealing with speed cushions and stuff, all the different types, and I think, what was it, a Florida county or something? I found one, an
I
ordinance.
still have that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are all kinds everywhere, but I had just found one going through the internet from a county in Florida, what they require in terms of, before they'll consider putting, I think theirs were speed cushions or something on their roads.
The only reason why I ask is because, if at the end of the day, we want to pass an ordinance with criteria, and those criteria would, in this situation, counsel against doing the speed bumps here, then I think it would be better to, head them off at the pass and say, hey, we don't like this, before we go through this rigmarole of studies and all this money we're spending to look into this. I think it'd be better to say no in the beginning than lead them down the road and then be like, actually, we're looking at criteria for the rest of the township, and now that we see it, and we don't want to do this anymore. So I guess I just maybe we should come up with like a list of criteria in that ordinance first, or sooner rather than later.
One of the things that really concerns me is the ice buildup. Because we're talking not just there in Cunnytown, and we know exactly what that road looks like there, but our other residential areas as well. There are people who park on the sides of the road. Their cars, you have these speed slots with ice buildup on Jolly Road or Mount Pleasant or Rennell or some of the other places where people where people cut through and the residents are justifiably tired of the speeding. Now we're talking about spots where you're lucky you can
Speeding
get
and
one
flipping.
car through. Like even coming here tonight, I had to pull over because there were, there was a car park. I pulled over, let the oncoming car, it was one of our officers, come through, and then I pulled out to go because there wasn't room for the both of us
Maybe
to pass.
with the whole concern of the ice is another reason we say 2026. We want to see, considering DeKalb's literally right next door to our township.
It would be nice to
It's
see
a
what
great thing
happens
To see
there.
how it works through a couple of winters.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Just to say, like
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that, I was writing.
with the icy conditions, since
Yeah.
these speed slots are already right in Norristown, just to say that's another thing we want to see, because we know with nothing there right now, how easy it is for cars to veer off and almost go into somebody's house. We want to see how they hold up in some of the icier conditions.
Yeah, what happens when they ice over, how durable they are to plowing
Yeah.
and lots of truck
If there-
traffic.
if there's-
Whatever else, yeah.
Even 2 or 3 accidents between 2 years on these DeKalb ones with icy conditions.
That would be good to keep up with what happens there.
That is immediately, to me,
The plow might hit it and then.
takes it as a no.
Gouge it.
Because you don't have to be
Yeah.
speeding and you hit ice when you're not, especially at night when it's very difficult to see. And, the whole black ice thing, you can be driving very carefully and going under the speed limit and
still
still slip. So to create additional places for ice to accumulate on a residential street is scary.
Especially because with this street, we don't get to pick where they go.
Realize the value of it being a nearby street in nearby township, but are there any other townships that have put these in, or like, are there any?
Some down in.
Well, Philadelphia has.
Hillcrest Avenue.
Yeah, so right outside Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia has a
Bernheim
couple of
area.
streets have these speed slots. Yes.
So maybe part of it is
Reaching
Doing
out to
some research.
Yeah, doing some research over the next 12 months through a
Township right
winter.
there.
and-
But I also think it's good with Norristown being
Yeah.
like directly next to us. Because even sometimes in Philadelphia,
Oh,
we
yeah,
get almost
I
the
would-
complete
yeah.
opposite weather.
Yeah.
Like, we can get a
True.
thunderstorm, and Philadelphia has sunny skies.
Yeah.
So I think even just having literally right next door to us, like, sense of we're asking everywhere, but we're gonna prioritize some of Norristown's too. Like, we want Norristown to at least go through and get a couple years of data first. And I'm sure the Philadelphia ones aren't that new either.
I was on it. I didn't see.
They are relatively new, Nick, yes, correct.
So,
There are the rubber ones too.
The rubber ones, yeah.
Yeah.
are the
Okay,
Norristown ones,
So it's
Yeah,
like
well, they're rubber.
enthusiasm.
I think they're rubber too.
Lowered a lot after experience.
that might be another one thing to consider. Are there any
Driver.
of the asphalt
Exactly.
instead of the rubber?
well, right.
Or like this way, you're just kind of driving over it. Like
Yeah.
wheels one on one side, one on
Does
the
it
other.
really slow people
100%
down?
full of these are rubber.
Cause them to do something erratic.
And they're causing problems.
Well, yeah.
Why can't we try asphalt?
So the gap between, what was it, between
Fernance and Johnson Highway.
Yeah, okay.
I think it'd be good if we just reset their expectations.
Chili's? Hillcrest, right behind Morris Harbor.
Like where there's updates, we'll give them, but like don't expect a lot of
Bethlehem Pike.
like pressing action. We're gonna be doing some research, we're gonna be looking into this, we're gonna be creating our own criteria.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're making them.
Yeah, this isn't just.
I'm blessed.
This is also one that could branch out also to the, this is something that could branch out to the rest of the township. If we're going to be pursuing this one, we need to be thinking about it township-wide, not just Cunnytown. We're still going to be looking into
Jolly
it.
Road's fairly wide, but you get on some of these other township roads.
Yeah.
You can't even have 2 cars passing each other because of vehicles parked out on the road.
I have another question about the Cunnytown update. I think we spoke last time about the potential of getting the Conshohocken, like, public transportation out there.
Yeah.
Was there any?
Yeah, Karen said she would reach out
Yeah.
to Punchy.
I didn't do that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we
So-
won't mention that then.
Artists also brought that up at the election, the country cab thing, and I was like, it's funny you say that. We're already looking into it, and they were very happy. There was concern about being allowed to bring dogs and then strollers, and I said, I'm pretty sure it has to be ADA accessible, so if a wheelchair fits, a stroller will probably fit, but we'll.
How does that work? Do you know? Do they pay for the ride?
It's definitely at a cost, but it is extremely cheap.
$2.
Yeah,
Something really
Do you have to
inexpensive.
call, or they just make a route, like the Rambler?
I think
There's a
they
route.
just have a route where it
Goes
ends
around
around
and
hours. Yeah, and they essentially go around in a circle, and it goes to like that very last new building on Conshohocken Road that's in Conshohocken. So it's really not, it's not even that much further to ask them to go down one more stop.
Subsidized by the
I don't know, it says that it's a partnership with the borough and a nonprofit.
We also have had developers contribute into parking, I believe, for some
Oh,
projects.
that
but-
makes
I'm sure they,
sense.
I'll ask. I doubt
Yeah.
that. You know, just throw people in for free.
Well, I didn't think that, but I was thinking that it might be a cheaper option of all the options that there are.
At the very least, to
Issue.
reach out and say we've reached out to see, is it an option?
Yeah.
If it is an option, what is its viability in terms
Exactly.
of interest to you? Does this seem like a viable option if we were to reach out and
Right.
include it?
And it's a great idea because you came up with it. Right. So it's something, they've kind of suggested that we're not helping think outside the box, and this is thinking outside the box. It's not something they said, go, would you look at this for us? It's something that we said, wow, wouldn't this be interesting if it worked? So I think for that reason alone, it's worth putting out there and letting them know we're trying.
Yes.
They had the Rambler, didn't they, at one point? Or was that just Upper Merion had the Rambler? Upper Merion had a Rambler?
There was
I thought they had something like this years ago.
But, oh, I was gonna say, it was a while ago
It was a while
though.
ago.
Yeah, I don't know when it stopped.
Right, I'm just wondering why and
Yeah.
when, but.
Okay, one topic that they will bring up, because they already have, and I think it will come up under the, the fact that we cleared the weeds and dirt and debris and exposed a sidewalk. So now they want us to build a sidewalk on the complete north side, the one that we had already rejected, told our engineers, don't even look at that, because that other side, the Conshohocken side of Cunningtown does not want to lose their parking, and that's where a sidewalk would go. And all of that is either PennDOT right-of-way or private property, and we don't typically build sidewalks and improve private property. Tornado owns one side of it, and then,
The other?
huh?
PennDOT owns the other?
Well, no, PennDOT has the right-of-way.
517 Newell owns the other part.
Yeah, so that house that's right there that used to be, what was it, a cricket club?
Rugby club.
A rugby club.
I mean, I think it goes without saying, the parking we wouldn't even do. I think the question is,
Parking is on private property.
1,000% they'll ask, well, can you just do it on the one side?
But they were talking about the
Tremendous.
fact that since the sidewalk was
Yes.
on, right, here's the parking, here's the new sidewalk, here's where they want to go. So now they're like, well, you don't have to touch that, we'll just sort of jump on the sidewalk and go from, now build us a sidewalk from here to here.
Right.
Right.
And
So that's the private property
situation.
situation.
But it's private
But it would just
property
be
on both
tornado,
sides.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Right.
saying, like, the parking is almost a non-issue now, because they're like, well, just start from where the sidewalk already starts, which is on this
Exactly.
side of the parking.
Yeah.
Because
But
that
then
was
what
another
happens
thing
when they
that
reach
came
the end
up,
of the
though.
sidewalk? They're jaywalking in the middle of the street, having to
Exactly.
look left and right without a crosswalk, and we are creating a dangerous condition by encouraging them to walk on a sidewalk, go under the blue route, and poof, the sidewalk disappears, and they have to jaywalk in the middle of the street because there are cars in front of
I
them.
100% agree, and again, this artist already said that. She already brought up the fact that we uncovered a sidewalk and was like, well, now can't you extend it?
Yes.
And my response was, the problem on this road is speeding. That's the problem with safety. How is a sidewalk going to help that? And she was like she said a lot of things and then was like, okay, you're right. I said, so can we focus on reducing people's speed on that road versus adding more ways to get somewhere?
If
And
it's,
that seemed agreeable.
but she's not the only one that said that, though, and she might be more agreeable. If it's me on this,
Okay.
I would be cautious about continuing to argue with them over the safety of walking, because they kind of said to us in the last meeting.
We're gonna do it anyway.
We're going to do it anyway. Will you help us find the safest way to do it or not? We're going to do it. And I would just I would take that argument off the table and go with the
private property.
private property. We cannot build a sidewalk for
Right.
you on someone else's property. That is private property. It is not, the township can't use funds for that. It's not, it's not our property to build on. Even if the person says, okay, we can't use township funds to enhance private property. So that way we're not debating with them about the safety issue, and they've said to us, I don't care, we're gonna walk it anyway, will you help us? We can't. We can't. We cannot build a
Right,
sidewalk there.
right. Next spring, they can cross very safely at the crosswalk. How about that?
That's true.
I mean, that's where I would go,
Right.
because they kind of said to us, we don't, we're gonna do it anyway, so you can help us or not. And you're right. I think
mean,
we
I'd be-
keep
I'd
saying,
be-
but don't do it, they're like, we just told you we're gonna do it anyway.
Lynn, I'd be careful with that line of reasoning just a little bit. Alex, maybe you can help me.
No, tell me.
We could always.
We can always condemn. We can condemn
We can
real
take it by
estate.
eminent
They don't want
domain,
us
which
to
is a
condemn
lot
it
of
because
money.
that takes away a dozen parking spaces.
Right, it's a,
But
They could do it.
hypothetically could and spend the money doing that and be tied up in potential litigation, but yes.
so
And there's still the
we
Tornado
can't,
property on the other
it's
side.
not feasible,
It
for
doesn't have a
sure.
sidewalk.
I
Okay.
don't disagree with that one bit. But the absolute can't, I think, might be
Okay.
a dangerous path if they've got some legal wisdom, in their
Okay.
pocket somewhere.
We cannot simply
We can't simply, Nick is a better
Build it.
adjective.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good, thank you.
Yeah.
It's not within a township right away. It's PennDOT property and it would.
But we also discovered a sidewalk there, but it's, by definition, it's asphalt and not considered a sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So it's not a sidewalk.
So I would say, if anything, there's safe haven underneath the bridge. There's so much space.
Yeah.
So once you can get there, but it's, again, it's asphalt, not concrete. And in our ordinance, a sidewalk is defined as concrete.
Oh, so it's not a sidewalk?
Path.
It's a path, yeah.
I think they'll.
It can only
that
be-
they won't care about that.
Kinda
That you're
looks
starting
like
to
a
get into mumbo
sidewalk.
jumbo. That's
So
going to be
build us more
like.
asphalt path.
That's what they'll say.
Yeah.
Yes.
But here's the thing, we can't, even if theoretically we could, or not theoretically, even if we could, at our expense, condemn private property and take it for a sidewalk, we are condemning and taking their parking.
Oh,
So
they
the
have said is more
people
important.
on the playgrounds, the Mansion House side, want that sidewalk. But I gotta tell you, the people on the Conshohocken side of the Blue Route where
We'll
Otis
fight them
lives,
every.
they don't wanna lose those parking spaces, and
Yeah.
that's where the path would go. So you can't just like build them a half a sidewalk on Tornetta's property, on their side, the old Mansion House side of the.
Again, that's the tornado property still goes to the same purpose. We can't simply build on private property.
I like the simply.
Simply, yeah.
That's a nice,
Because we could,
yeah.
but it's hard and it's expensive to even get the right to do it, much less the actual doing it.
And then is PennDOT going to support us in their right-of-way of building a sidewalk to nowhere? Because it's gonna end in parking spaces and create a danger. I'm sure PennDOT isn't going to enjoy that. They're not
We
gonna.
had a resident that came in and talked about having to back out and people walking right there.
Right in front of them.
We had, one of the residents talked about that, about people walking right behind those cars. It's difficult to see, and she said she was close to hitting people. She's been close to getting hit
Hitting the
herself.
people that are, yeah.
So do we want to mention this proactively amongst our County Town update, or do we want
I
to
think
ask
that's
about it? Or?
more a prep for the asking of the question.
Yes.
We have
That's
said,
right. I just wanted you to
we
be
have also
prepared
said.
when you do it.
Oh,
no
I agree.
To the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
yeah.
We have said no to the sidewalk.
Right. That's why we're not
So
providing.
if they're
the update.
going to come in and ask a question, we know what the answer is.
I like that.
Now, for the north side, because
For the north side.
Because the south side's done. We're not doing it on the south side. We've told them that. Full stop. I mean, at some point, you can't just. give
Unless they
residents
can
every single
somehow
thing. No,
get
right,
all the
right. Safety
Conshohocken-side
issues,
people
and
to
there
say,
are
yes, we'll give up our
fiscal
parking.
issues.
No.
We can't do things that are unsafe and not financially sound. It's not appropriate for a township to do that.
Kristen, just so you're prepared, they're still gonna ask you why they can't do the south side sidewalk.
Oh, I know that. That I feel like I'm good with.
Yeah, we don't want it part of your update, but you're coming, but the
Yeah,
question
yeah.
is coming.
Oh, I know. If this goes horribly, somebody else is doing this next time.
We're rotating regardless.
We are rotating, Kristen. Only every 5 months.
Wonderful.
The wrath.
And I have 5 months to go before I'm back. Okay, I'm sorry that we bothered all of y'all with all of that, but it's very important. And it does involve public works and involves police safety and everything, so.
Right.
Is there anything else from anybody, or does Public Works and Police try to add anything else to our discussion on the Cunnytown update?
No.
And we will not call upon you either, I'll tell you that. Thank you, everybody. The meeting is adjourned.